Oh, my sweet, my dears, my darlings, you're so far away from me. Though an ocean of tears divides us, let the bridge of our love set us free. That, in fact, is a quote from a song that Catherine O'Hara sang with Eugene Levy in A Mighty Wind, which is one of the Chris Guest movies. So I sing that to you in recognition of dear Catherine O'Hara today. She was a delight and a joy. I honestly have loved her since early days of watching Waiting for Guffman and so forth. So, and Home Alone, of course. So what a loss. What a loss indeed. And so I was giving her a little recognition at the top here.
Come with us. Let's reality test. Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or fact-based reality. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as psychologists about the reality off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song. Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. K, and I'm doing this bad boy alone today while Dr. Ray is away doing a work trip. So I'm going to play. I'm going to have some fun today, and we are all going to do a deep dive, do a little bit of a case study. And the fun part is you don't need to know this person to enjoy it. And in fact, not only because this person will remind you of someone you know, whether or not you've seen the show that they're from, but also because I'm including scenes, direct scenes. So you can just sort of hear about this person. Doesn't matter what's happening on the show, yada, yada. So we're going to try out this new type of format for the episode, see how it goes. And then in the future, Dr. Ray and I both may bring in a case study together and talk about it together. So we'll see. All right, let's get started. Let's get started. So again, just love to Catherine O'Hara and her family. What a tragedy. We also have had quite a few happenings in the social sphere lately, including the Grammys and the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny getting to spread socio-political messages that are just so important, including unity and integration and decolonization. So thank you to Bad Bunny for those important messages being brought into the zeitgeist here even more than they have been, although that's because we have basically none of that right now with the current government. So thankful for that. I'm going to start with the reality check, and then I'll go on to my check-in. So why don't I actually do the disclaimer while I'm talking about that? Dr. Ray and I are therapists, but we're not your therapist, unless you're one of our clients who listens. Hi, friends. But we are going to be talking about some mental health themes and topics. Basically, the point is that we have some knowledge that we can apply to understanding people, but it doesn't mean we actually know anything about that person's reality. We're only given what the producers want us to see, right? So we're working from that angle and very much making just opinions and thoughts. We're sharing some thoughts, but not actually diagnoses. We might talk about diagnostic language. We try not to diagnose folks, but we might use some diagnostic language just because those things are commonly showing up with a certain presentation, not because we know that person, quote unquote, has the thing. Thus, even though I'm going to be doing kind of a deep dive and case study on this one individual, I could be way off on how this actual individual is in the world. And rather, the value is learning about the type of person that you probably also know in your life elsewhere. So we will do a deep dive into that one person. It is a new type of episode that Dr. Ray and I are trying out. In the future, we might both bring in a case study of somebody and talk about it together rather than doing recaps. So we'll see how this goes, but I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this person. It's been sort of sticking in my craw for a while, so I imagine it might be sticking in others' craws as well. So let's do some of that, exploration together as non-judgmentally as possible. Or, while trying to be non-judgmental. Trying our best. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention is, so it's okay if you don't like that show. Oh, yeah, important. Okay, so the other reason it's okay if you don't like that show is because I'm bringing in whole ass clips from the show. So you're going to hear this person live and in action. I'm going to have the audio. If you're listening to the audio episode of this, then you're going to have the audio of those scenes. And if you're watching the video episode, you're going to have the videos of the scenes as well. So they're very poorly taken intentionally because I don't want to get in trouble for republishing and making money off of them. So it's just really more about like symbolism, it's sort of like, it's like a sign of what was actually in the show. So, because I do have quite a few scenes, and they all fall around the same themes, which says a lot about what's going on, about the recurring patterns that are enigmatic here. Okay, so that is ahead. But first, I'm going to do reality check. Reality check is where Dr. Ray and I bring in a psychological study. We explore it, think about how it relates to maybe what we're talking about that day. Maybe it relates to reality TV. Maybe it relates just to social media or our lives. So basically, it's like a study of interest. Or reality test today. Reality check. For reality check today, I picked a study in favor or in recognition of the Olympics. So maybe you watched the Olympics tonight, the recording on Sunday, and Lindsey Vonn had a horrible accident, broke her leg. Heartbreaking to watch. Heartbreaking to watch. She has broken bones before, and she's a resilient athlete, but still scary to watch. It was within the first 13 seconds of her race. So, yikes. One of the things I was thinking about, although this doesn't relate to my study, is even in watching the Olympics, how our mirror neurons fire off. Like we feel like we're also, we sort of like, ugh, when we see, skaters go into their triple axel, worried that they're going to fall and then that would hurt us, So I think it's actually a real empathy builder, if you will, the Olympics are. In this case, I was thinking about empathy that we have for athletes that continues past the time of them being in the games. So obviously, you can imagine that Olympic athletes have a really high vulnerability post games. In fact, they even have a phrase that has been coined that is specifically called the post-Olympic blues. So, another version of that I think I've even said on this podcast is like post-Christmas blues, right? It's like after the excitement of a thing, we tend to have a little bit of a depression. Another example of this is getting back from Europe, right? People who travel to Europe come back, feel depressed. It's very common to feel depressed after that excitement and invigorating time that you have in this other place. So very much understandable that the Olympics would be that times a billion, because the intense training that goes into the Olympics and then going to the Olympics and then performing, maybe not even at your expected level, would just absolutely leave you depleted afterwards. So sure enough, let's start with this first. So up to 24 to 41% of elite athletes report mental health issues, including anxiety, burnout, and depression, often linked to a vacuum effect, quote unquote, after losing their central life focus. So this is where Lindsey Vonn comes in, because I was thinking about her injury, and I don't think she's done, but if she were to be done because of that injury, I mean, absolutely, whole life changes from that point forward, and how absolutely debilitating that must be emotionally, to have something you've been so focused on and your entire life focus sort of shift. There's like an identity crisis, a purpose of life, a loss of purpose of your life sort of feeling. The vacuum effect and depression. So it's an abrupt stop to an intense training is the vacuum effect. And then there's a post-games depression. There's also neurobiological adjustments, which I wasn't really thinking about. So there's a lot of endorphins that we release. There are a lot of endorphins that we release when we are working out or training. And so suddenly that is sort of depleted. Obviously, that would mean if you were working with somebody, or if you are yourself an athlete, post a thing you trained for, let's say maybe in a marathon, right? Training for a marathon can have a similar effect on a little bit lower level, of course, that you might want to plan something else that will help you release endorphins after that's over, even if it's not athletics. Similarly, you set a lot of goals in sports. And so when you're trying to reach for goals, that's a very specific type of lifestyle and structure that suddenly is missing when you're no longer, trying to set goals and reach them. So it's another area where when you are starting to, or because of an injury, if you have to stop, to try to think about ways you can continue to set goals to reach for, as a way of sort of addressing that piece as well. Another hard, like sort of, vulnerability, which I thought was really interesting, is that folks who focus as much on training for the Olympics also forego a good amount of social life. So they don't have the same kind of social supports that others might have. And so it's really important to try to connect them with social connection and so forth, if you're working with them, or if you are yourself an athlete, to find those places you can get social support, some networking in. This sort of idea that like the pursuit of excellence comes with the cost of isolation, oftentimes, strange relational functioning, and neglect of your non-sport related aspects of life. So that is the overall vibe here that we're talking about. And I think that's very understandable. People would really relate to that and understand that to be true. There's an identity recalibration and different things that happen that are intense, right? It's sort of like, honestly, but as I say that too, I can almost imagine it being like almost like another adolescence. You're like going back through this intense emotional, psychobiological experience. Your whole body is affected by it, and then your neurotransmitters, friends. Woo! So it's very much like another adolescence, frankly, because those are affected in a sudden depletion way. So there's this depression. I would say also, the transition effects and sort of transitioning to a new set or new lifestyle, and then similarly to that, a new identity calibration. So one is to like normalize that for yourself. Know that this is the fact. This is the reality. It's not you. You're not alone. And therefore, try some of these other sort of tactics. For example, diversifying your identity in different ways. Find other things that make you feel good, that make you feel like that's you, a sense of self-worth. Embrace new challenges. Find new ways to set goals to try to reach for. And really finding that social support, which might include asking for help, including from a therapist, right, to start, but then eventually sort of finding other types of social support as well beyond paid help. There are TED Talks, books, articles galore on this topic, so you're not alone in that. There's an NPR article, for example, Olympic athletes face mental health challenges after the games. That's one from 2022. But the article I wanted to share a little bit about was a specific, let's go back to that, was a specific article about this very issue, about elite athletes. So it's called Post-Race Reactions. And the subtitle after post-race reactions, the emotional paradox of high performance and anxiety, a conventional content analysis. So this was a qualitative study. You may or may not know Dr. Ray and I are big fans of qual. It allows for more social justice stuff because it's less about like reducing people to numbers to make hard claims and so forth. That said, everything has a place, of course, including quantitative. This was a series of studies. So this is part of a series of studies about how people are post races. For an example, this is all recreational. So you can imagine you could take this and like amplify it by a bajillion. And in this qual study, some of the themes that came out about what happens after they have finished the Ironman or whatever else they were studying for or training for, I'm sorry. The four emerging themes were high on life. So, right, that's like during the time that they're training and so forth, they're high on life. And then loss of energy, ambivalence, and melancholy. So there's very specific, right, words. Activity charged emotions. So again, we're sort of thinking during the time. And then dimensions of emotions over time and new goals. I've got to be honest that if this were my study, that's not how I would have put those themes together. They kind of are interestingly chunking things together. I'm not sure. Maybe I would read it in more depth and end up agreeing with them. But the other thing I like to do when I do qual is result in whole sentence themes. They just say so much more. Like these really, I'm guessing what they mean by this. And a lot of people will look at a study, basically just an overview of their table or something and not really dig deeper. So anyway, fun fact for you, if you like qualitative research, a little side step for you there. Basically, the symptoms of depression and mood swings following competitions have been shown to be associated with the fatigue and sleep disturbances endured by endurance athletes during long ultramarathons. Long ultramarathons. Thus, the post-race period appears to be a vulnerable time. The post-Olympic blues has previously been described as characterized by a period marked by increased anxiety, depression, burnout, and challenges in adjusting to everyday life. It's been marked by anxiety, depression, burnout, and challenges in adjusting. Well, they just repeated literally the same sentence twice. That's not me. They literally said that twice. In addition, the degree to which athletes meet their performance expectations significantly affects their experience post-game, with unmet expectations leading to various negative reactions. You can see if you were aiming for gold and you got silver. And in fact, there's another study you've probably heard of because it's so famous in social psych that shows that people who get silver are less happy than people who get bronze. Because the people who get silver are like, oh, it's this close to gold. Whereas people who get bronze are like, I just placed. Thank goodness, right? Thank goddess. I made it to the podium. So that is directly getting at this idea of the unmet expectations. I imagine Lindsey Vonn has a really intense time ahead in terms of psychological functioning in addition to her physical functioning. I'm sure that's obvious to everybody. And yet it's also really helpful to kind of get our minds wrapped around some legitimate data and research on this. Also, there's a ton of stigma around athlete mental health. It's really important we talk about it. So in recognition of the Olympics, I share that with you today. I'm going to also tie it back to reality TV, but first I want to say I'm also wearing my winter hat today and Khloe Kardashian by Fabletics jumpsuit in recognition of the skiers and Winter Olympics. Oh, watched Elia tonight too. Fantastic. My goodness. These folks are incredible. So happy Olympics. Get out there and have fun too. Not just get to put all your hard work to to the test, really. Reality test. Okay. Anyway, the way I want to connect it back to reality TV. So I was thinking about this with really people who go on reality TV. There's such an intensity. Dr. Ray and I have talked about that idea of like getting a depression after they've been on reality TV. There's such an intensity. This might be the most exciting time of their lives while they're on reality TV. So then what do they do after? And what can they, how can they continue their fame, frankly, right? Because that's part of what they like and what they have become accustomed to that is exciting about it. And so you can really understand why a lot of these reality TV stars will go on and try to create more of a career around it, at least branch out and do other things, right? Like Caitlin Bristow and her scrunchies and wine and so forth, or Iqbal and his podcast. So, right, I can understand how that's quite similar in that way. And also why a lot of people who come off of reality TV have a lot of strong emotions, and some have been suicidal, some have actually killed themselves. Others go through a deep depression or come back later, back onto the scene later, having described a really dark time in between. I also think the relational strain that comes from being on reality TV must be quite profound, especially if you're villainized. If you're seen as the villain, then your social relationships must take such a big hit when you get home. And the last thing I wanted to sort of extrapolate from this and sort of think about in terms of reality TV was the challenge, specifically the show The Challenge, because I was thinking about some of the veterans. Unlike the other game shows like Survivor, Big Brother, yippity bop boop, the challenge is one where the veterans keep coming back and back and back every single season. It's not just every now and then when a Survivor, veteran season comes up. It's every single season the veterans come back. So there are some people who've been doing it for decades or at least over a decade, and they've grown in front of us on TV, which is incredible. And also, I can think of that as being quite similar to folks who train for the Olympics year after year, where that structure of striving for excellence, for winning the challenge, for example, becomes a part of their daily life, even when they're not on the show, because they're training for when they go back on the show. So that structure, the goal setting, the intensity of training, the intensity of the time being on reality TV while they're filming it, and so forth, the relationships they associate with that community, yeah, I can't imagine it's any much different, frankly. Obviously, right, like the outcome, the celebration of the world, is slightly different. So, well, quite different, right? But certainly there's a fame to it and so forth as well. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to sort of think about the challenge folks as well and how they must have a really hard time completely dropping the challenge, which is also why the All Star seasons were so great with the older contestants who are now older getting to come back and do a little something. Maybe nice nostalgic return to the structure. All right, listen, enough of that. So that's reality check. We also do a check-in, sort of say hi, what are we thinking, what's on our heart and minds today? Okay, so for my check-in, first off, big day today. One of the things that happened, in addition to the Olympics I just shared about, was the Super Bowl. And Bad Bunny, for example, spreading some of that loving, amazing message about unity and love. The only thing stronger than love is, nope. The only thing stronger than hate is love. So, what an important message. Grateful for that message to be something that we're sort of trying to remember right now during such a dark and awful time, including what's happening in Minneapolis and just the horrific murders of people by ICE. It's already been horrific treatment of folks for years. And by the way, it doesn't matter if they're immigrants or not, right? It doesn't matter that many of them are citizens already or have been for many, many years or were born, it doesn't matter that some of them are or not. Nobody should be treated like this. And it's heart wrenching. So these messages about love being the only thing to overcome hate, gosh, do I feel that. What I wanted to focus on from the Super Bowl today as my check-in, one is Brandy Carlisle being the opening anthem singer. I was really impressed, honestly. But I have to say, the NFL has been one of the organizations or institutions that didn't back down on the DEI thing when Trump tried to get everybody to back down. So, the Rooney Rule, other things like that, they still care a lot about diversity of their coaches and so forth. I mean, gosh, they really would friggin' hope so, given the diversity of their players. But still, so in that way, I'm not shocked that Brandy Carlisle would do that. And also, I just absolutely loved the vibe it brought to start off the game and lesbian visibility. And she had two black women being her accompaniment. Oh, what a joy! What a joy! I recorded it from my phone just for my own safeguarding. So I want to start right off with that beautiful, lovely message from the Super Bowl. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was something that I sort of caught myself thinking about as potentially like implicitly racist, and I was sort of thinking about what is that in me, but also something you might relate to. So Bad Bunny, as I mentioned, was the Super Bowl halftime musician, and was also at the Grammys talking a lot about Ice Out, for example. So important, beautiful messages. He's from Puerto Rico, talking about unifying Puerto Rico more. Puerto Rico is one of our colonies. Like we have colonized Puerto Rico to be a U.S. territory, and then like treated it like a total foreign nothingness. It's just awful. It's totally awful. So I think it's really important to remember that what we have established there, and to treat Puerto Ricans as part of our country if we are going to colonize. And that, it's sort of like we did the we did the thing that would create that's bad, right? We colonized, which itself is like imperialism. There's so many problems with it, of course. And then we treat them like they don't even exist here anyway. Like they're not even part of our, like they don't get the benefits, and yet they get the deficits. So fucked up, and definitely something to consider for ourselves in terms of our relationship with Puerto Rico. Super important messages he's telling, unparalleled, very, very great, very, very important. Love the message, as I said, about love being the only thing stronger than hate. My only critiques, one is on myself, and one is also the Lady Gaga part. I just was really struck that it felt a little bit appropriationist, because she's full blown Italian. She was singing Spanish, which of course, that's totally, but she was wearing like Spanish dress, and sort of, I don't know, there's something about it that just felt a little bit like, "Eh," a little appropriationist. Whatever, right? I mean, it's Bad Bunny, it's up to Bad Bunny, and he can very well do what he'd like, and so can Lady Gaga. I love Lady Gaga. I was struck sort of, I don't know, that felt sort of like something there. But right, his whole point is the unity, and coming together. And so that's not even the issue. It's just I sort of wish that, like, we have Ricky Martin singing Spanish. Like she could sing Spanish but also be wearing her normal kind of like outlandish outfits or something, or not do some of the Spanish movement. I don't know. Something about it just felt not ideal to me. Just as sort, I don't know. Whatever. Fuck it. Not a huge deal. I'm just mentioning it. The thing that I was going to call myself out on is there was a couple moments where I was like, I wish I knew what they were saying. Right. Like ultimately, I know that he's saying some messages that are important. I looked it up later. He was indeed, but I know he's saying some messages that are important, but we don't have subtitles. So I said out loud, I was like, are there going to be subtitles? Or like, I kind of wish we had subtitles. And then I checked myself and was like, there are so many times people who speak Spanish as a primary language have not had subtitles on, American TV, and they've been forced to figure it out. So the least I can do is not expect that here. And immediately sort of like felt some shame about it, white shame about it. And yet, right, like ultimately, it was important for me to acknowledge it, keep it moving. I just, understand it and sort of think about it, empathize with those who have had that exact feeling and not been able to do anything about it because they're not part of the majority in this country. So I just wanted to check that and sort of see if other people were feeling that or so forth. So if you want to reach out because you were feeling that, or if you think that that's conceivably not racist, because I can also see an argument for it not being, please feel free to email us at realitycheckpodding, PODDING, at gmail.com. Or you can comment on one of our social media sites, which you'll see it in our description, and also I'll share again at the end. So actually, I'll just do it here. At Reality Test Podcast on Instagram, or our individual ones are at Dr. K Pods, that's me, and at Dr. Ray Pods, that's Dr. Ray. You'll also see that we are on TikTok. Honestly, I'm kind of letting that go, given the political sphere here. So if you don't know, TikTok has been overrun with, it's like now owned by a right wing billionaire or something, and they're censoring it. So like, I'm getting out of there. But I will continue posting on Threads, which I do like, or already was liking, and also on Instagram. So at Reality Test Podcast is our group one, and then at Dr. K Pods, at Dr. Ray Pods. Our Threads is therefore also at Dr. K Pods. That's actually what it is. So come check that out. Leave us a comment if you're having thoughts about what I was just talking about, and where, the good natured reason for me asking that, sort of like I want to be able to understand what the messages are that he's sharing. Or like, does it make sense also that sort of like unfair for me to sort of be like, right, like why aren't we, like, this isn't going to be as valuable to me unless it's also in English, or like unless I can understand, which is just not true. It was so valuable to me. I enjoyed the heck out of it without that, and I think they had to do a really good job, unfortunately had to do a good job of exemplifying what they were talking about without speaking in English so that people could understand the themes. But I thought they did a beautiful job sort of catering in the way that they had to, unfortunately, to the greater audience. But it was really beautiful set as well. I love how they use the space. Anyway, halftime show topics today because they're fresh on my mind. Olympics and Super Bowl, big day for athletes. So then my study was also about that. All right, let's jump into our deep dive today. We're doing a big ol' dive deep into the ocean, into the waters of mental health for one specific individual who's on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Again, you do not need to have watched this show ever, actually. In fact, you can get a sense of the Real Housewives even as a franchise without having watched it. It's this idea that, initially they were housewives of rich and famous husbands that we were focusing on, like, what are their lives like, right? And most of them weren't working, and what was that like, da da da. Nowadays, the housewives are all bad bitches making their own money and using their money for good in many cases, and then also just sort of like for their own wealth and enjoyment, which is fine too as well. But they're hardworking and they got where they are oftentimes on their own merit. So, you know, always actually, it's always been in many ways related to, like, all housewives have also got where they are based on their own merits. So that's really reductionistic actually. But in this case, it's not based solely on whom they married. It's also based on their hard work and their entrepreneurial spirit and their entrepreneurial jobs, companies, and so forth. Okay, so think about that as sort of the overarching context, whether or not you've seen it. This is on Bravo, these shows. Beverly Hills is like that in the most fancy, luxurious way because Beverly Hills is so luxurious, fancy as a place. This is the show, the season. I'm sorry, this is the franchise that had Denise Richards on it. So it had Garcelle Beauvais, who's absolutely stunning actor and an actor of color, in fact. I miss her deeply. She just left after last season, and honestly, good for her because the way she was being treated was ghastly. Not just by other castmates, but by producers based on what they were allowing to happen. Oh my god, awful. The way that they were at, like, so it's really obvious she left in big part because of the implicit racism and that nobody had her back. But the fact that then when she left, everyone on the show, including the producers, were like, "Why did she leave? That's so weird." Like they sort of villainized her for leaving when she was finally standing up to the bullshit. Really. Don't get me started. I have strong feelings, but point being, there's been some actors on this franchise in specific, and right now we have Kathy Hilton from the Hilton Heiress, Air company, the Hilton Hotel company. So Paris Hilton's mom. In fact, her sister's name is one of her stepsisters or half sisters' name is Kyle Richards. She's been on it since the beginning of this franchise. She's still on it. She's the longest running member. She's still on it. She was also in Halloween, as a little kid or whatever, with Jamie Lee Curtis, with whom she's still friends. And then we have some other folks that have, are adjacent in some way to fame. And then one of the newer members, her name is Bose. She is a woman of color who was the CEO, all these things of marketing or such for Netflix, for all sorts of things. I think like Apple. Honestly, I'm not doing her any justice, but she's a powerhouse businesswoman. Phenom. She's a phenom. And as far as housewives go, also a phenom. Her emotional intelligence has been unparalleled by other housewives in this franchise or other franchises. So definitely, I'm a big fan. If you didn't see the episode met now years ago or whatever, at least a year ago, I have an EQ crush on Bose. So I have a crush for her emotional intelligence. Phenomenal woman. So she's still on the show. She is friends with also Dorit, whose husband is a major music producer from UK, also happens to be pretty awful in the way he treats her. And then we have Jennifer Tilly, who's such a great actor. She was played Jessica Rabbit in Roger Rabbit. And she also has been on other things, just like always a hoot when she's in it, and she's a fun, kooky lady. And her husband was the one who did The Simpsons, so she has all the luxury and financial support, stability from his work for a lifetime. But she's an absolute hoot. She's new to the show as of I think last season. And then this season we got two new installments. Well, we also have Erica Jane, who's the second longest running after Kyle, and she's a LGBTQ plus sort of icon, even though she's presumably straight. She seems to be identifying as straight, at least publicly, although I could be missing something. And she is phenomenal as well. Such a hoot, very funny, very straightforward, calls it how it is, very real, and also friends with Dorit historically, but also friends with Kyle. So she sort of bridges the feud, which is between Kyle, the longest running member, and Dorit, the jerk's wife, music producer's wife. So meanwhile, an important context here is that both Kyle and Dorit are in the middle of divorces in the very moment that this season is happening. Okay, so we've actually gone from a housewife show that had a lot of housewives to absolutely none. They're all unmarried, either divorced or unmarried. So kind of love it. But point being, they're both going through divorces, and previously, historically, they've been friends. So conceivably, they could be supporting each other through this, but not in reality. Because the other thing that's important is both of their ex husbands are friends. And so Kyle is hearing from her ex husband about Dorit's ex husband and felt like Dorit was not being honest about what PK was saying about it. So basically, like, he's saying the opposite, so I don't really get it. And it's hard to see her not take Dorit's side when she's also saying, I'm doing this because I care about you. She pretty clearly is closer with PK. Then we also have with us a brand new member or two. So one new one is Rachel Zoe, who's a fashion designer. She's done fashion for all sorts of famous people and also had her own show not long ago on Bravo as well. But actually, like probably a decade ago. But she now is a new member of Rachel Zoe is a new member of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Oh my gosh, another really emotionally intelligent lady. She's also going through a divorce. Okay, so you can tell there's a real theme here of right empowerment also, but emotions, vulnerability. Okay, so that's one of the new members. The other brand new member, same year, they both started this season. Her name is Amanda. I don't know her last name. She's younger in just life experience. I would say like not even talking about age. I imagine she's younger in terms of age because she's so much younger in terms of life experience. The way she shows up is pretty wild. She's a little bit enigmatic in that there are things that you just are sort of like racking your brain, like, what is this choice? What is this choice you've made here? Why are you doing it? Why would you not think about how that makes other people feel? Why would when you see how that makes other people feel, continue to do it? So you might think of somebody that you've met before in your life, personal life, where you're just sort of like, what? Like, are we, did you, are we seeing the same thing? Are you choosing to do that? Or are you unaware that you're doing that? It's very much social lack of awareness, self-centeredness, self-referential form. And yeah, so we're going to talk about her, do a deep dive on her, which is going to be like someone you know, I'm sure. This gives you a sense of the relational sphere and who's at the dinner table, if you will, because some of the scenes happen at the dinner table. So now that you know who the castmates are, we can dive in a little bit and look at some of these scenes. As we go through the scenes that we're listening to, I will just stop and point out things as we go. You'll notice some of the things that are enigmatic start to show up right away. So really, again, even if you don't like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, just give it a listen and give it a shot and see if you don't recognize this kind of an idea from other folks. Okay. Okay. Let's get started. This clip.
Where is the hostess? We need to like, I don't understand the timing of the group, like how I'm supposed to know. Don't worry about it. When I'm actually supposed to be somewhere. Where is Sutton? She said she would make the chicken. Do we want to grill? I mean, I can cook a chicken. If there was an option not to come, I would have liked to have known because I could have gone to bed early. Punctuality is not super important to me. I'm absolutely a late person, but I think there's like a limit. It's that when we're waiting hours to eat dinner, and that's a different vibe. What are we all like at a rave? You should have brought a personal chef on this trip. All right, now I need utensils. We're fancy Beverly Hills ladies. We don't cook our own food. My God. Just try not to get the chicken juice on. A lot of us don't even eat. These would go with your Chanel purse that you had. Are we iconic or what? We're a moment. I have a thing for pythoners. I have a lot of them. Like a lot of them. Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm just gonna hit pause there for a second. It gives you a sense. So this is on a school trip, a school trip. This is on a group trip. They've gone to whatever, somewhere south of them, California, New Mexico, something. And basically, this is like organized by Sutton, whom I'm now realizing I totally left out of that conversation just now of who's whom. And in fact, she does have an important role in the social sphere because she was the one with whom Garcelle Beauvais, my favorite, prior, although Bose is now a favorite too. She was the one who was sort of paired with Beauvais or Garcelle to support her or sort of like have a friend because as you notice sometimes there's like little pair offs that happen that are pretty clearly either negotiated or orchestrated by producers or asked for by castmates or whatever it might be. But when there are dyads, obviously they're stronger. Those folks are stronger because they have each other to have each other's backs. And I think because Garcelle was already a cast member when Sutton joined, I think Sutton was intended to help Garcelle, like be a friend for Garcelle and come on. And instead, she really wasn't. She was not a good ally. She dropped her a lot in terms of allyship. She was really not supportive. And then she would be really selfish and be like, I felt really thrown under the bus by that. Meanwhile, Garcelle had like literal racism flying at her face in that reunion. Girl, oh my God, stop and think. Like, really slow down, take a beat, get out of your own fucking way, and think about what Garcelle's going through, who's also telling you. So you're just not listening. ooh, that was painful. So another reason why I was like, yeah, get out of there. But when Garcelle left, she just totally ghosted Sutton and never told her why she ghosted her. In my opinion, it's like Sutton was always just trying to be an ally to Garcelle, but knew they didn't like know each other for a long time. She never said things like, "Well, we've known each other for years and we've always been best friends" or anything. So it's pretty clear they were recent allies. That's why I think it was orchestrated by the show. And so part of why she's like confused is because she didn't know what she was doing wrong if all she was supposed to do was be an ally. But she doesn't realize she was also a bad ally, like just not good at it. You should listen to our episodes on this. I do a deep dive on why I think Garcelle was wronged. She left the show. The reunion was like, I'm done. I'm not even going to do a cast picture. I'm out. I'm quitting the show. And it shocked everybody, quote unquote. Why? Why did it shock people? I give you a list of reasons why it made total sense. Go listen to that episode. That's from the reunion, the last Real Housewives of Beverly Hills last season. So probably like March or something of 2025. Okay, so coming back to this, Sutton's still on the show. Garcelle is not. Sutton is a Southern lady. Her mom's a Southern therapist who's definitely racist. Okay, so Sutton's organizing this trip, and you heard that she told people, I can make a chicken about doing dinner because people were trying to figure out what the plans are for dinner. And so they were like, well, we can just do it at home. Well, I can cook a chicken. Meanwhile, Jennifer Tilly, we love, brought up the fact she's like, why don't you just get a private chef? Like, we just want to be able to eat fancy things. We're fancy Beverly Hills ladies, and some of us don't even eat. So it was kind of a funny joke. But just the point being that this isn't something they're used to sort of doing their own meals. Meanwhile, although some of them do cook, they don't want to cook while they're on vacation. So then, not only does she organize the dinner, says she'll cook, she doesn't show up till like 1 in the morning or like 11, right? It's like 11 p.m. when Sutton finally comes down to dinner. During that time, while they're waiting for her to come down, first of all, other ladies were also late, pretty late, 10 o'clock, whatever, because they came back from a hike, yada yada. But during that time, everybody's kind of griping to each other, little side combos. But what Amanda does is just next level. She stands there in front of everyone, throws a fit, um, very vocal about it, very entitled. Like, when I go places, I like to know what's going on. You know, sort of idea, well, if I had known I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't be here. And it's like, listen, everyone else is feeling that way, but you're so new, you don't get to be the one to announce that to everybody. You can sit right down because they're all putting up with it and they would put up with much more and they've been here much longer. You should be putting up with much more because you're new, right? Sort of like pay your dues. You don't even know. So it just felt, I think that's a part of what happened. And I don't know if she watched it back and was like, see, other people thought that it was annoying too, but it's like, not the same. It's not the same that you got up there and sort of announced it. Even the ones who were more justified to say something said it to each other, a side convo, or directly to Sutton. Kyle goes directly to Sutton and says, "Where the fuck were you?" You know. So you don't. The way that she went about that was just super entitled, super misread of the room. Meanwhile, Kathy Hilton, who's walking around with a towel attached to her foot, turns to her and says, "You know, just worry about yourself." Great advice. Great advice. Don't worry about everyone else. They're all going to do what's right by them. So, right. The other thing, just watching it back just now, first time I thought this, but it made me realize that Sutton saying, "Well, I can make a chicken." I feel like she didn't want to make the chicken. I think she tried to stay up there long enough that someone else would make the chicken. She was like, if I come down at 11, someone's got to have made it, right? I mean, she said when she was asked where she was like, I'm just slow. You know, so she said as a response. So I gotta say, not the worst move. But she got down there and they hadn't made the chicken. So then she had to make the chicken and she was slamming it with a hammer. Anyway, funny stuff. Sidebar though. So you're starting to get a sense, right? This is just one moment first. We're talking about Amanda today. So she's the one who got up and sort of said, where is she? Why haven't we started? If I come down here, I'd like to know. And where's the structure here? Yada, yada. Okay. And that's just our first entree. We're like, oh, here's a new person. This is what she's like on a group trip. Fun. Hee. Okay, let's get back in. Here's another convo between Amanda and Kyle. So remember, Kyle's the longest running cast member of Beverly Hills.
Avery or Ari or Avi? Avi? Yeah.
So Avi is Sutton, who's on the screen right now. So Avi is Sutton's like receptionist. I was gonna say secretary, but like receptionist kind of, or like handy fella, but like more for like a scheduling related or security. You know what I mean? I don't really know. Kind of like just you know, like schedule manager or something. Let's just say manager. Let's just go with that. Okay. And he's a delightful gay guy, fun. And everyone loves them together because they're kooky and fun together. And yet suddenly he just left and we don't really know what's going on. It sounds like they had a breakup in terms of friendship, not related to the job. And then he's out from the job. We do hear from other people that like Jennifer Tilly, for example, who's Sutton's friend, had talked to him and it didn't seem like he seemed to think it was temporary too. So something else is going on. We don't know what it is, which makes it much more curious, of course. So then Amanda kind of wiggles her way in here and says to Kyle first, like, you heard it was like Ave, Avery, Avery, and she goes, well, they told my friend to tell me. They said, oh, my friend knows Sutton, and he told them to tell me to come talk to him to get the real dirt, or even to hire him to really piss off Sutton, was what she said that they told her. And note how she goes, let's do this again. Ready?
Avery or Ari or Avi. Avi. Yeah.
So this is
Okay,
later,
Sutton.
telling
I
Sutton.
had
After she
something
talked to Kyle
odd
about it,
happen.
Kyle
I didn't know
said,
if I
yes, I
should
think you should tell
tell you.
Sutton.
What? I talked to Kyle about it, and what? She encouraged me to tell you. Okay, so you had an assistant named Avi, Avi, something. Avi.
Can't do the bit twice. I really think you knew the name by now, and you even started with it, and then still did the sort of bit of like, is that the name, or as if you're just like, too special. Didn't watch the show, don't know his name, didn't hear it just a minute ago from Kyle upstairs. Doing the bit twice, I was immediately suspicious of. This is a micro moment, but I'm just sharing it because I think it gives you a sense, right? She goes on to tell Sutton, well, my friend told me, he told a friend, I have the real dirt on Sutton. Come talk to me, maybe even hire me, yada yada. Sutton acts real defensive. She's like, I don't think he would even say that. This is confusing. Shuts it down. So it makes us more curious, of course, but really the point is, you know, it's starting a little confrontation here with Sutton. Sutton doesn't love that. She's not good with that. So in general, so the other thing we're noticing here is that Kyle is supporting Amanda in this. Sits back, smiles, kind of even smirks right from her seat, while Amanda says, "Well, Kyle told me I should talk to you about it." Okay, so she's being able to confront with the support of a major OG who's been in the show forever. Okay, so new scene, new content.
She had me write down if I was going to manifest the next man in my life, what would it be? I must have 30 things on it, maybe. I did that with Betty. I made my first list for my future ideal husband when I was 13. I wrote Abercrombie model. Years and years later, Eddie and I are on a date. He's like, did I ever tell you that I was the guy that stood in front of the Abercrombie store in the jeans with my shirt off? Shut up. Wow. He's every single thing besides one. Sorry.
Pause it right there. Notice how she says he's every single thing besides one. So she was about to tell us what he's not, chose not to tell us. I also bet it's a couple things, not one. But interesting.
I'm making a month what he makes me weird. Who's the breadwinner? I wish I was the fucking breadwinner. Maybe mine would have ended up differently. If I was in control of things. Maybe it wouldn't have been so bad.
Okay, so if you didn't hear that, she just, as an aside to Erica, whom I love, very direct, love and adore, and then Rachel Zoe's on the right, Amanda's on the left. Amanda says to Erica Jane, I am the breadwinner, and I make in a month what he makes in a year. Okay, and she makes it real clear to Erica, I'm the breadwinner. Why? Why tell her that? So now not only are you insulting your husband, who's going to watch this at some point and feel like you're going around touting that he's just like a kept man or something, but then you're also going to upset Erica, who didn't have that situation. In fact, she was a housewife of a very rich man who then committed fraud and almost got Erica arrested too, or did get arrested. She almost got in prison too. So, hearing that from Amanda is quite disrespectful of Erica's situation, and then also, frankly, of her husband. And, obviously, these archaic views of masculinity and being the breadwinner are outdated, and absolutely, men should not feel like they need to be the breadwinner. But your husband was raised in an era where that was the expectation, and we weren't confronting that yet as a problematic expectation. And so there's no way he doesn't feel a little emasculated by that. And I just think that's real tone deaf. Also with him to do that. And also, why do we care? No one cares. We just met you.
You want to meet two of my new friends, honey? This is Erica. Hey. Hi. This is Amanda. How are y'all doing? I miss you so much. I love you. Hi, baby.
I kept that in because I actually want to give Amanda props. I was kind of impressed with the way she reacted to the kids on the phone. I thought she did a great job sort of being lively, not overly doing it, a little bit maybe, but she really seemed to engage great. But great. I thought it was great. She has kids, so obviously it's not like it's shocking, but I really wanted to give her props for that. That was okay. So this is when they're leaving that and going somewhere else as part of the trip, however. Okay, so now she's in the car with Erica Jane and Rachel on either side.
Hi, what's up? I think we pay her because that's what we said we would do. But I can't figure out what's wrong with someone's phone that they're saving things in a way that's blurry. Like, it's not what I should be doing. I could take a car to LA on Thursday. So I don't know if it was a dream or what, but when I woke up, I saw on my text message previews, and I saw one saying something about the website, and I thought you were telling me the website was done. And so I said to my friend Erica, oh, my website's done. And I had my laptop with me, and then I think I dreamed that whole thing.
Girl, don't stunt in front of us. We all have business calls. I don't want to hear your quite honestly. I'm not on a business trip. Save that for your room. We're trying to relax out here. I don't care.
And absolutely, what is that etiquette? What on God's green earth, or goddesses green earth, makes you think that anybody wants to hear your business call while on the phone? Frankly, scrap that. Don't be on the phone in a car, just period. You don't have to not only be quiet on the phone, don't be on the phone. Like, it's sort of like the next step over would be like her being on speakerphone, which I'm so glad she wasn't at least on speakerphone. But just the etiquette of it is wild. It's one of those things where it's sort of like, I just don't think she's seen or experienced where that would be like, how? I don't know. Sort of just like human decency and respect, I guess. But it does remind me that there's some pieces with her background that we'll want to talk about for understanding some of this content. I will say that I do want to challenge Erica a little bit there. I don't think she's just stunting. I think she's also trying to do two other things that are relational bids, but they are done in a very weird way. So, one is that she made an effort to call Erica her friend to this person. By the way, there could be no one on the phone. I wouldn't be surprised, but there might be. Might be her husband. Who knows? But she said on the phone, my friend Erica. I said to my friend Erica, da da da. So by calling for Erica her friend in front of Erica, she can do that without saying to Erica directly, "I'm your friend." You know, so it's a way of like sort of indirectly saying like we're friends, like, and it could work with some people, right? Like that's not a terrible strategy. I mean, it's pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible. I don't know. But the point is just like referring to ourselves as friends in another context is a great way for us to test out whether the other person thinks we're friends, right? Then maybe they'll say like, "Oh, friends, okay, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, we're You know, usually they'll be nice about it, but you might sense that they didn't really agree with it. So that's interesting. And if that's her bid in that case, even if it's subconscious, she did it in a way where she didn't have to see Erica's face or see if Erica agreed or not. So she's scared. She doesn't want to know whether Erica agrees that they're friends or not, but she wants Erica to know that she thinks they're friends as like a bid, right, to friendship. Again, this could be subconscious, but it was definitely in the water. It's definitely a piece of it, no matter what, even if it was altogether used to boast about her business. The other thing she did in there is she explained that she thought her website had been posted that morning because in the scene in the breakfast a minute ago where they were in the kitchen, she had told Erica in that scene, "My website's up. I'm so excited. My website's up." And Erica basically gave no fucks. She like made a cocktail. She was just not in that conversation at all. Again, to her, it felt like stunting. And it wasn't in that case, right? She's seeking approval from Erica for her, prowess in the workforce. So she said, "My website's up." So, but then fast forward, she has to explain on the phone why she's wrong. And the website's not, in fact, up. So you can hear on the thing, she's like, "Well, I thought that my website was up, but I think that was all a dream. I think I just dreamed it up because I told my friend Erica, but I don't even, it's not up. So I must have dreamed it." So what? You know what I mean? She's like, "I saw the previews on my phone and I thought you said that they're up, but they're not. You didn't say that." You know, which, well, like, why previews on the phone? Who cares? The whole thing, not a great story, but important part of it is the outcome that she lied or was wrong. Sorry, she was wrong about the fact that her website was not in fact up, even though she told Erica, her friend, that it was up. So I actually think this was a way to explain the story of why if Erica went to go look for the website, she wouldn't find it, and also in a way that like she won't get interrupted, right? She can tell this longer story about what happened without people kind of moving on. Because by the way, most of the time she's been putting in bids for friendship, people have been moving on pretty quickly. They don't go there with her almost at all, like so far that we've seen, right? For good reason. You earn that kind of a friendship conversation, slowly building it through rapport. And by the way, by asking questions, ask your friends some questions. Ask Erica Jane about herself. Ask her what she's doing right now. Ask her what she thinks about various things. Ask Bose about her work. Ask Bose about her baby. Ask, so, girl. Anyway, point being, she's not putting in the sort of bids for friendship. By the way, another angle I'm going to take during this sort of deep dive is what would I say differently if I were you? Is what would I say differently if I were Amanda trying to get what Amanda's trying to get? So this is one of those instances because I think if I were Amanda trying to put in a relational bid for Erica, one is I wouldn't just say things, I would ask things, as I mentioned, ask her some fucking questions. show an interest in her. And right, if I wanted to know if she thought we were friends or not, I think maybe one way I would just do that is be like, I feel like we're becoming friends so fast. Is that me? Am I like in my head about that? I just feel like I already would have thought I would love to be your friend, but I really love being your friend if that's something that, you're feeling too. But feel free to be like, girl, take me and I can check with myself a little bit longer. Right? Very natural, self deprecating. Um, it speaks to the fact that she has an input, which she should have an input. Just saying so somebody else that she's your friend when she doesn't get a say, no one's gonna like that. We don't like that. Okay, there are exceptions. I'm sure some people like that, where they can be like, "Oh, good. I think that's great that they think of me as a friend. I don't have many friends, whatever." But for somebody where she really is the low person in terms of the sort of hierarchy, and Erica Jane's really high up in that hierarchy, to just sort of be like, "Oh, my friend," is a little bit disrespectful of Erica's consent. And in this case, not how Erica feels. So now she looks silly on the show because Erica's saying something completely different than what Amanda's sort of suggesting or thinking that she's her friend, when really she's clearly not. So that's what I would do differently about that in terms of that bid. If the website thing was true that I was wrong about that, I think I would just come clean about it and be like, dude, I'm so embarrassed. I think in my sleep, I checked my phone and thought that it said the website was up. I just went back and looked. No such thing. Doesn't even exist. Like, oh my God, what a silly thing. I can't believe I did that. But anyway, apparently it's getting worked on. I can't wait for you to see it. Blah, blah, blah. Keep it moving. You don't need to belabor the story. You can just apologize. Hey, I'm an idiot for that or whatever. Don't say you're an idiot, of course. You're not an idiot. But you can sort of make fun of yourself for doing it, right? For sort of like being half asleep when you made that decision. And if she knew the website was not up, so why would she do that? Why would she say to Erica in the morning, "Oh, my website's up," and then it turns out it's not, and she has to admit it because, oops, maybe she realized, oh wait, Erica can check that. So if she did actually know the website wasn't up and she sort of just like fibbed, it would be just done. It's true. Like that would be what Erica was picking up on as well. And by the way, it's not that I didn't think she was stunting when she was talking about business in the car, because I absolutely think she was. I just think there's more to it too. There's things she was trying to get across as well. I think in this case, she might have even known the website, not, maybe she just completely fibbed up under pressure. She wanted to brag about something to Erica and impress her, right? Is it bragging? I mean, yes, by nature it's bragging, but also with the intent of connecting with somebody else by hoping to get accolades, right? I mean, ultimately, to me, it says a lot about her self-worth being tied up to her work. So when she's able to succeed in some way in terms of her work or in terms of maybe it was school when she was younger, when she's able to succeed in terms of those really real achievements, that then she feels a sense of self-worth. And so she wants other people to see it too and applaud her for it. And that's a moment right there where she didn't know what to do. So how do I connect? I tell her something that she's going to appreciate me for. And Erica did not at all. She just kept it moving, like didn't react at all to the idea that the website was up. So wrong audience, not the way to connect here. Don't make it about your work. Make it about who you are and ask questions is like ultimately what I keep coming back to. But yeah, I think if she did know about the website and, she might have realized, oh, wait, that's not really a good fib because then she could check it. Then she would have to undo it in the car by talking to somebody. And again, she'd have to talk about it in the car, like at length, because it's probably a long story, right? Ultimately. And so how do you tell it without somebody interrupting you or sort of moving on before you can get there? You do it to somebody else, a different target in front of them. So she had a captive audience there in the car. By the way, if she knew the website was up, wouldn't she have gone and looked immediately? I can't imagine that. I can't imagine having a personal website for my job, for anything up and not going to check it immediately to see how it looks, make sure it came out well, whatever. I can't imagine. So I don't really believe that she came down to breakfast and said it was up without having checked it. Personal thought. Okay, let's keep going.
Oh, cool. Do I really need more sunglasses? Less expensive sunglasses don't have proper UV. I've sunburned my eyes before. Oh my god, there's so many shops, you guys. Like, how cute is this? This is really good. I'll just get it.
So they were in the car on their way to go shopping. Now I guess they're in Sonoma, by the way. That was the answer to where they are. They're in Sonoma and they're shopping.
There's a Sedona shopping scene. Wait, is that like a destination for shopping?
Okay, so let's start with the fact that right off rip, she is quite insulting to Sonoma. A little bit earlier in the scene, we saw Jennifer Tilly talking about Sonoma, and she was like, "You go to Sonoma to buy very specific things. So here are the things I got: turquoise and diamonds, right? It looks like they have great jewelry there, homemade. It looks like some native or indigenous communities sell art there. It seems like actually a really important place to go get certain things for shopping. And Jennifer Tilly has the wherewithal to not be a bag of dicks about it. But Amanda literally makes fun of it on her in the moment. So in the video where they're asking her about it later, she goes, "I'm sorry, are you saying Sonoma's a place to go shopping? Like, do people say like I'm gonna go to Sonoma to shop?" It's like, ugh, right? Like just some of the elitism we're just not feeling. We're not feeling when whereas we get to know Amanda. It says something about the fact that she associates that kind of an attitude with success, sort of being able to be like, you know, oh, please, I know shopping, and that's not it. It's unbelievably rude. I'm backing up a little bit. I would say it nicer. You know, I think I would try to say if you have to say that about Sonoma, right? Like I don't think you need to say anything like that. But if you wanted to say something about Sonoma's shopping, you might say like, you know, I wouldn't say like I go shopping there often, but I do really like certain things about it, and I'm glad we went. That was fun with the ladies that day. Maybe make it not at all about Sonoma as a shopping destination. The fact she even makes it about that, it says so much about the material focus of hers. At the beginning of the scene, also, we saw her talking to dear Rachel Zoe about her sunglasses that she picked out. She's like, not another pair of sunglasses. Should I get another pair of sunglasses? And she literally says, less expensive sunglasses don't have proper UV. I've literally burned my eyes before. And I just can't even imagine. So, first of all, Rachel absolutely knows. I'm assuming. And I honestly think she does. But even if she doesn't, who cares? The whole point is not the way to do it. Right? Like, so for one, I'm pretty sure we all know that cheaper sunglasses aren't as effective. Why wouldn't we know that when so many of the more expensive pairs are like touting how good they are for your eyes? But on top of that, if I'm giving someone advice about something, this isn't how I'm doing it. It's so presumptuous and condescending. Like, ooh, you probably don't want to do that because it's not good for your eyes. Like, I've burned my eyes before. Which she also said after Rachel probably didn't react a whole lot to her first comment. Let's say that right now, right? Okay. It's giving you a sense that she's also quite condescending. Now, we're shopping. Here is my juxtaposition to that, where we have Kyle, Erica Jane, and I think Dorit maybe shopping and having a fun time together. Not the vibe. Not the same vibe as what's happening with Amanda.
Wow. It's beautiful.
It's a must.
Beautiful.
It's a must.
It's like sexy pretty.
It's really sexy. Yeah, I think you need it all.
Oh, new dance.
See,
I wasn't gonna be happy until I found some.
Get it all.
Buy it. I want to go.
So Sutton's actually Sutton, not three. Oh, that's so fun. And then it cuts over to Amanda.
Actually, good. Is it ceremonial grade? Is it ceremonial matcha? Like, why? Does that mean it's like blessed? Can I have an iced matcha latte? Can you do half almond and half oat milk? I have almond and oat. Oh. Live on the edge and do almond. We're starting over. I can't. I just can't.
Okay. One, I didn't know matcha could be ceremonial, so I don't know what that means or whatever. Just goes to show, my own ignorance, perhaps. Or I'm sure, especially because the woman behind the counter knew right away. Like, yes, it is. So something about that is of interest to me, especially like Rachel said, sort of like, was that, what? Does that matter? And then the other thing was, like, I don't understand why partial oat milk's okay, but not full oat milk. And then so then she's like, okay, let's start over. Nowhere in there do I see her sort of be like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you mind if we start over? I guess I do want something different. Or just like, please. She doesn't say please, she doesn't say thank you. There are other scenes where that comes true as well, or comes to bear, that she doesn't even say thank you or please. My goodness, my friend, be polite. And people are here, like they might be serving you, but they're serving you, be kind. That's what that means. If someone's serving you, you are kind to them, ideally, right? Okay, so another form of sort of elitism or condescension.
So hot.
If you see your screen and go cinematic, you might get a little more.
No, I'd like to
detail. Okay.
Kind of like the ultimate condescension, talking to Bose about her phone, right? She's like, if you clean your screen and then go cinematic, you might get more of. And Bose just interrupts her, says, "I like the haze." Pretty sure there's like not a chance on earth that Bose intended the screen to be hazy. I just don't believe it. I mean, maybe, right? I don't really care. It's fine. Teach their own. But ultimately, even if it wasn't by choice that their screen was hazy, I could still see her being like, "I like it that way," because the condescension. Nobody wants to fuck with it. How would I say that differently? I would say something like, "Oh my gosh, I already know this," and I felt so stupid, but that I didn't think about it before. I keep doing that to myself. I don't know why I refer to myself as stupid. I guess I'm in the case where it's like I'm trying to downplay Amanda's elitism. I'm sort of calling myself stupid. I might say something because I actually don't use that language pretty much at all, nor would I encourage other people to, because we're not stupid. We're just living our lives. But you might kind of say like, "Oh, I felt so out of place," or "I felt so silly," or "I felt like, oh my god, of course." It's so big when I'll do like, "I felt like, oh my god, of course." But I realized that I had to wipe down my screen and it all would change. But also, have you tried cinematic yet? Look at that. Used a question. Shocking, right? Used a motherfucking question. Have you tried cinematic yet? It's a new mode. No one's gonna be shocked by that question. It's much kinder. It's respecting her fucking autonomy. Good God. Okay.
Why do I smell tired? Feel like no, I didn't know if it was a tear. Oh no. Cheers. 80s.
So the night before this, as you may recall, Amanda had asked Sutton about Ari, Ave, Arriva, you know. And so this next day they're at a meal and she's sitting there stoically, and so much so that Kyle goes, "Were you just like tearful?" No, 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 no. So she might not have been tearful, but she definitely wanted someone to notice that she was out of it. Like she was like calm and not interacting. Like she clearly wanted someone to ask her if she's okay. If she was across from Sutton, I'm wondering if she wanted Sutton to notice and be like, "Amanda, are you okay? We're good. Are you upset with me? Like we're good." Sutton wasn't touching that with a 10-foot pole, or would she? Even if she noticed, it's possible she noticed, but we don't know. But either way, Kyle did finally fell for the bait, or sort of like followed up with her about it. Oh, no, 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 if everything's fine. But then watch.
Yes. Hey, Sutton. I felt like you were really mad at me this morning in the kitchen with the hay, Missy. I was wondering if last night was carrying over to today.
No, but you'll know when I'm mad at you. And hey, Missy, is the...
Hey, Missy, I heard you were talking about me. It to me felt like a kind of strong statement. I wasn't.
I mean, that's not mad, that's agitated. I guess last night I was late to cook the chicken.
Well, a lot of people are running late, but we were like, okay, what time is it? Who's cooking what?
But it was specific to me, right?
It was the main dish, but it wasn't just you. No,
It wasn't the main.
Some points here to consider. One is that Sutton is Amanda is confronting Sutton about the conversation they had, and she makes it very victim focused. So sort of like that she was victimized, that Sutton came after her. She was clearly mad at me. It seemed like those were really strong, aggressive words. It seems like you were really upset with me. And it's still bypassing the issue, and it sort of hooks Sutton to go down that road. Well, I wasn't mad. I was just frustrated or whatever, right? This idea that, when Amanda brought up something about Ari, that then Sutton got defensive because she was worried and sad about Ari's leaving and what he would say about her. None of those things are surprising, Amanda. And you're brand new. And you're coming in and acting like, well, I could have the dirt on you if I so chose. I could have asked Ari to tell me everything about you, but I didn't. What a gift I'm giving you by not having followed up with him. So don't you also owe me? That's what she's acting like, right? Like by telling Sutton, she's saying, you owe me because I didn't take Ari up on it. And like, by the way, I could have the tea on you if I wanted. And I know enough people to know what's going on. And then when Sutton reacts poorly to that, because who wouldn't, she then is sort of like, there's something wrong. It seems like you're really upset. So this is another sort of mode that Amanda can go into where she's sort of like, is there something up? Like, what is it? Like, sort of smirky, sort of like, okay, like, and it's like feigned humility, right? She's not humble at all in that way, but she's sort of almost like, let's just have it out. Like, let's just get it out on the table, which better intent than a lot of the other ways she acts, but still not the whole kit and caboodle of what she's trying to do. She's basically bypassing the topics of what they were talking about too. She's bypassing the issue of sort of like, right, what were you doing talking to this person about Ari, or why were you even telling me that you could have talked, And it becomes much more about like, what were Sutton's emotions during it? How did Amanda feel based on Sutton's emotions? And by the way, Amanda's using her own reactions to it as a gauge of what happened, rather than understanding how Sutton was sort of more objectively. She's saying like, I felt like this, so you're being aggressive.
Dish.
It's a protein.
Okay. This seems really trite to me and rather juvenile that we're talking about being on time. I don't know. That's me.
So it wasn't about the thing about your assistant.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't even deserve my fight. You just sit down. You'll know if I'm pissed at you, Missy. So then at that point, Kyle gets up. Sutton's talking to the rest of the group about Ari and Avi. Oh my god, fucking funny. I've been saying Ari. Anyway, Avi. She's been talking to the rest of the table about Avi. And then suddenly Amanda goes, do you cry often, Sutton?
Do you cry often?
Like, whilst eating. Okay. First off, condescending. Wicked condescending. It's immediately obvious what you're doing. And Sutton even says to her, like, Amanda, like, enough, essentially. Not go in there with you just because you said it. And really, the whole point of that is, like, you must not cry often because look at you almost crying right now at this meal. It's so condescending. And she might be crying at this meal as the first time she's cried about Avi, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't cry often about other things. So she could still have unprocessed feelings about Avi and cry here because she has unprocessed feelings about Avi, but not because they're all unprocessed feelings. And also, if she has unprocessed feelings in general because she doesn't cry often, none of your damn business. You just met her. Sit down, let her have her emotions, and get to know her slowly over time. Ask her questions and not about that. Not condescending questions about, like, because there's a subtext to that, which is like, you must not cry often because you're crying like that here in this context, which suggests also the other context is subtext is I don't do that, right? Sort of the subtext is I've figured out my emotions and so I don't cry in public. Which to each our own. We're welcome to cry in public if we want to fucking cry in public. Sometimes it's just when it hits. Sometimes we're triggered for very serious trauma. And emotions being let out through crying is sometimes the only way it's going to be effectively let out. And that is welcome. Okay, this next clip.
Can we talk about our trip?
I know. Tell me what you think.
The thing that I noticed the most on the trip, I'm a very wing it person, as you know.
Yeah.
I roll into my life, what happens.
Yeah.
And I think for Amanda, it has to be laid out. I think she's very systematic. I don't understand the timing of the group, like how I'm supposed to know
Don't worry about
when I'm
anything
actually
yourself.
supposed to be somewhere.
I made my first list for my future ideal husband when I was 13. So I made lists for 20 years.
Shut up.
Her dropping this information about her friend and Avi was not accidental. She wanted to drop it. She wanted to drop it in there and perhaps gain some points. The problem is it backfired.
Okay, so we can see that they're having a similar reaction to me where it's for a reason, right? There's something for a reason that she did that. They don't ever fully address what it is. I think it's to show a sign of power. Like, I know enough people to know what the deal was there. Everyone's curious about it, and I do know something about it. It clearly piqued Kyle's interest what I told her. And then meanwhile, also, by the way, that was certainly not the first time Kyle heard of that when she told her in the hotel room. So that was done for us so that we could see that conversation happen, but there's no way that was the first time that happened. Kyle already knew. She said, yes, this is something we should bring up on camera. Yes, this is something we should bring up to Sutton after you bring it up to me first on camera, yada, yada. So then it was dropped as a bomb. It was purposeful, like, right? Like a way to have control, a way to show I know stuff, and then a way to sort of like put in a bid for like a little bit of conflict with Sutton, ideally so that they get stronger than ever on the other side, right? But it just didn't work like that. And it's not, it's like threatening to be like, I could have known, but of course I didn't. It's like, how do I know you didn't know? My immediate thought is going to be you did and you're holding something from me and you're later going to drop a bomb about it. Not fun. Threatening, in fact. This is between Amanda and her husband.
Any problems? Anyone cry about Mama?
No.
Not even at bedtime?
No, bedtime was different. I was putting them all to bed. Kanan was laying on top of me like he usually does. Liam was beside me, and I was holding Shosha's hand on the top bunk. And we finished. I just felt him. Like the most I've felt in a really long time.
3 years ago, I had twins, Kanan and Zion. Emergency C-section, middle of the night, born 11 weeks early. It was a hard pregnancy, and Zion, my son, didn't make it. He died at 5 days old in the NICU.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry.
Zion's placenta was faulty, so he was having a hard time in the womb. Kanan was in the NICU for 68 days. Zion unfortunately died in my arms the first time I ever held him. Friday is obviously the anniversary of him dying.
Yeah.
That was a really weird day for me last year, so I don't know how I'll be this year.
Snuck up on me last year.